welcome back to the Rangers News YouTube channel. My name's James Black and I'm joined by Jordan Carlisle after Sunday afternoon's thrilling 1-1 draw with Celtic at Parkhead. Alfredo Morelos broke his old firm duck with his first goal against Celtic after Elyounoussi had put Celtic ahead about 15 minutes earlier. Jordan, thoughts on the game? It wasn't a classic, but did it feel like one of those kind of end of season old firms where, they're usually played a bit quicker than that, but you do kind of feel it's not got the same tension as maybe one in August, September might?
Yeah, I think it wasn't the greatest game. It was like the greatest spectacle. It's one of those ones where I think everyone gets hyped up beforehand. You get carried away with it yourself, and we're making predictions and stuff for the game. I'm gonna say, this is where Rangers can really stamp their authority on things. But realistically, I think for me, there's just this sort of realization when it comes to the end. It's one of those games where like neither team are wanting to lose it really, and neither of them are really that fussed about winning it. I think you can sort of tell that at the end. Like, for Rangers, it's the key is keeping the unbeaten run alive going forward in terms of not taking too many risks that way. For Celtic, it would be an absolute disaster if they lost. So I think both teams sort of come away with it probably happy enough. It's also easier said than done. Like these guys are all professionals, and the standards have been really high at Rangers all season. But it's easy for us to sit here and be like, right, really go put the foot in the throat. Really show the high standards and stuff this season. But it's hard when the carrot as such of the league title isn't there. All the hard work's already been done essentially. So and a big emotional and draining night on Thursday night before it as well. So the players are probably, those that aren't going on international break, probably ready for a bit of a rest after this, and those that are going away, a change of scenery and stuff, will probably be helpful in terms of refocusing after that. But yeah, it was a little bit of an anticlimax, wasn't it? But I mean, it's not a bad result based on the pattern of play.
We'll kind of go on about the impact of the result and whatnot earlier, but does the timing here kind of lead into why it's probably such a dull game? Because Rangers have had back-to-back European games, but there was no kind of Saturday, Sunday game in between those two. I think it's been a fortnight since Celtic's played. It's the last game before an international break. Title's done. It just, everything was absolutely set there perfectly for it being an absolutely bullshit, boring draw, which is kind of what we were served up. But were you surprised with Gerrard's lineup? If we went a really strong side, there was two changes for the Slavia Prague draw with Yanis Hadji and Phil Helander coming back and Patterson going out after picking up a knock, and I can't even, Scott Arfield that came out. Kind of what you expected, or I know Canny kind of thought it was going to be a bit different by the looks of the predicted 11.
Oh yeah, obviously we're not like privy exactly to what's going on inside and the condition of players, but to me, I do find this sort of it's happened quite a few times with numerous different people this season, that the concept of someone not being fit enough, so they're not playing, but they're also making the squad. Now, to me, that seems a little bit strange because I get the concept of that. Nah. To me, I get it when players have been out injured and they come back and they're not fully match fit. But if someone's playing games regularly, their conditioning is there, their fitness levels are there. I think you could see with Nathan Patterson when he came on that there was nothing wrong with him.
I think when Gerrard had spoken kind of Friday morning, it'd be picked up a knock. I think he'd taken a kick in the calf, I think it was. So I think it's just one of those ones where, and today's a perfect example of that for me, where you put him on the bench and it's in case of emergency. You have a right back who, I'm no one to say that Balogun was entirely the reason for Balogun's poor performance. It wasn't just on him. I thought he didn't get enough support from midfield in front of him, which kind of left him exposed. But that was a perfect example of it. You can have him on the bench, and if you need to use him, use him. But if you can get away with keeping him there for 90 minutes and keep him sat in his arse, great, you've dodged a bullet there. And I think that's what Patterson was today.
I don't necessarily agree with it in that case, just because I think that Balogun did decently for a couple of games at right back, but I think he's been exposed since then. I thought he had a poor game on Thursday night. He's not sort of. I just thought he's sort of off the pace in terms of his challenging. He seems to be that little half second behind everyone else in terms of attackers and stuff like that. And it's only going to be made worse by him being out in his own, I think, at right back. And as you say, he was a bit isolated and maybe not given as much help as he was after. But I just think Nathan Patterson would be very disappointed not to play as well when you could see that he ran around for half an hour, and there wasn't anything wrong with him. So I was a bit surprised at that. I think he would have been disappointed at missing out the chance, of a start in an Old Firm, which he might not get again for a couple of years. So yeah, a bit surprised at that, but well, not surprised because of the news and the build up, but a bit disappointed by that. I was kind of surprised that Kamara played because it's a big ask on him to just with the nature of like how big the press coverage and stuff has been, to refocus. But I suppose also the message is that, not only is this stuff not acceptable, but also it's not going to affect, people are going to
I
stand up
think
to it.
also there's a kind of lack of options there a little bit. With the greatest respect to the likes of Barfield, Zungu, if you take Kamara out, who do you really, especially for a game of this magnitude, were it Motherwell or St Mirren or whoever else, you could maybe make the case for certain others, but I don't know if you would want to go to Celtic Park and take Glenn Kamara out and only have one of, maybe if Jack was fit, you'd maybe take the chance a bit more. I think just with who's available and who's out, it would be a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, so then just other than that, I think if he was in the mental space to play, then you definitely played him. But just wasn't sure going into the game whether that'd be the case or not. And it was kind of good to see Hadji get a go in Old Firm. Don't really think he took the opportunity, even though he was relatively bright a couple of times early on. He struggled to get into the game, as did most of the sort of. I thought Kemp was bright and lively, but other than that, a lot of players, Aribo as well, struggled to get into it again, in an Old Firm. So not overly surprised by the 11, a couple of disappointing aspects to it, but it definitely wasn't a vintage display, but at the same time, like, really, can you sit here and blame the players who've won the league by March? So what more can you really ask them, to be fair?
So there was a kind of couple of controversial moments. The Odson Edwards penalty.
Yeah, still
yeah. So absolute nailed on dive. But nailed on dive. Scott Brown came out after the game, and yeah, he claimed it's a Stonewall penalty. Martin O'Neill made some kind of ham-fisted attempt at an argument that it could have been a penalty in Sky Sports. I try and drown out James McFadden's voice when I can because it's nearly as bad as mine. So I'm not actually quite sure what he said. But what was that?
Now, McFadden actually McFadden actually agreed with Boyd, and I think realistically, O'Neill didn't actually think it was a penalty. He was just essentially trying to have a laugh, which is probably not necessarily a good time to have that when he's all.
It was the only time he seemed to have it, I think, in the entire, because there were a couple of points with Boyd and McFadden. I think we can have a bit of banter, and they'd go to O'Neill and it just dropped dead out there.
It was a strange one, because it was obviously like Ailey Barber was like, I'm going to play devil's advocate, actually looking for his opinion on it, and that's when he was then sort of laughing about it. But I mean, it was kind of strange the way Brown was like, you'll have seen it at half time, clear contact, and it's like, no, like we've watched the replays and he jumps over him. And the thing is as well, Edwards obviously, maybe he's embarrassed as well, and he's turned around and told everyone at half time, like, he took my leg away, because Brown's saying, there's no reason for him to go down other than that. Well, you need to take that up with Hodgson because it's him that's run down. I did think initially, like, just first time I was on, that's it. Like,
it was when you saw Barisic's reaction.
Yeah,
he was kind of like, it was like he was appealing it. And he just thought he was kind of going too hard at it. Oh shit, maybe he's touched him. But yeah, it was a really, really weird one. But later on, he went down again. Should he have went off?
I didn't actually see the replay of that one properly. I think he sort of, it was one of those ones where he was halfway down, realized he's like, oh, I definitely haven't been touched there. What am I doing? I think getting a double yellow for simulation would be an interesting way to go off an old firm. Like, I don't know. I thought
That's
he was
the
there.
ultimate chuck to jersey, isn't it? That's
Yeah,
up there with Chris Sutton's handball and stuff, and that would go down in infamy.
yeah, it would be a ridiculous way to go. I mean, I just thought I just couldn't believe he didn't shoot when it came to him in the first place for the initial one. Like I think just the goal was basically gaping. Barisic was obviously trying to get in the way, but it was a real strange one from their point of view. But yeah, and then it was an interesting 45-second clip or whatever from Brown, and he's also saying like, "Oh, whoever it was that came into the back post and scored."
Whoever it was,
The guy who you're at like 95%
constant.
of all of those games you're at each other now.
They spent the 10 minutes before he got substituted trying to get him sent off. That was like Celtic's entire game plan for that whole phase of the game was just let's see how we get the Colombian dude sent off. I was like, come on.
What about Morelos'
You,
face as
you
well?
actually saw Brown catch himself, see during that interview,
Uh,
because he was about to say something else. And then stopped and says, whoever it was that scored. And I don't know what,
yeah,
I'd love to know what he was going to say before he caught himself.
yeah, yeah. I thought Morelos was like 100% the right decision from Gerard, as was had evidence for before, like 100% the right decision to bring Morelos off because
Mhm.
you simply even if he scored and he looks like he's in a decent mood, you have no idea what he's gonna do. But I thought it was funny when he fouled Brian. Like he clearly left the leg in on him, and then he was booked, and he was like genuinely like smirking, like proper, almost like breaking out into a grin after he'd been booked. It was almost as if like he had a tenner on himself to score and be booked, and then his work was done.
I would love to see who he was snarling at as he come off because
Uh,
Sky only just caught a little bit of it and then cut to something else. So I'd love to have seen who he was going at, but I suppose it becomes an inevitable question with the Morelos Old Firm goal. Is it one of his last Old Firm appearances that he gets his goal on, or
I don't know.
do you think
It's
that helps attract, no necessarily attracts more interest, but helps cement that he can score in the big games thing, or was that just a load of bullshit cooked up by batshit crazy Celtic fans
I,
with far
well,
too much time on their hands?
I think obviously, I think even James McFadden was sort of saying at halftime, like finally people can stop talking about this, which I think is what the majority of people want. They can just stop talking about it because it's well established that he's an absolute quality player, quality forward. Um, there's a reason that people are talking about it though. He won 14 games is way beyond his normal returns. If in terms of playing against other teams, like it clearly was an issue. But I also think today he actually played like a proper striker though, and I think in a lot of those appearances he hasn't done. Whether that's changes in tactics specifically for games, and then I also think for a while he was almost adapting his role when um he was definitely nervous in around the box, so he was pulling out and creating chances for other players and stuff. Today, I just thought he was in the positions that he needs to be scoring goals more often. So, and I think he anticipated well for the goal. I don't know if it makes him more desirable because I think, if the guy's scoring against Royal Antwerp and Porto and teams like that, then you know, he's going to be desirable anyway. But I think it definitely just sort of it's a bit of a monkey off his back, and I think it's a good thing as well. Like whether he leaves now or he has another season or whatever it is, I think it's probably most likely that he'll go in the summer. But even if he does, he's got it out of the way now. You know what I mean? No one could say that to him. He spent 4 years there and he didn't score against Celtic. In the proper big game and all that. He's got that out of the way, and he's achieved a lot. He's answered a lot of questions this year with playing a big part in the league win and all that. So yeah, it was good. It was good to see him smiling in an old firm.
Yeah, we've still got at least one more of these to go, maybe two. But weird, this isn't it?
Yeah,
It's been a while. It's weird just having like kind of essentially meaningless Old Firm games again because it has been a long time since we've been able to go into Old Firm games. And I think before when we were shy, you kind of had that thing where everyone was in the next kind of benchmark. We're getting closer to them and closer to them and closer to them. But now we're just kind of getting further and further away. And it's kind of they're in that same role. So it feels weird knowing that there's an Old Firm game to come at Ibrox, which might, I think, possibly could be the next league fixture, bizarrely. And it could be them at Ibrox. And do you think it'd be much of the same next time round? Or
I think there's probably less of a see even at Celtic Park they're going to come out and have a go at least, and they did have more chances. And Rangers today had more of the ball. That might change a little bit as well for them to go to Ibrox, but the setup of Rangers and the thought process might be similar. I do think Rangers will benefit from the international break though, and also certainly there'll be hopes that Tav and Jack and stuff will be back. If Jack's supposed to be involved with Scotland, then he's surely going to be back fit. And you would think Tav will be back fit as well. Two really big players for Rangers, so refreshed sort of attitudes. Key players coming back into the group. That's maybe where Rangers can really put the foot down and assert their authority. But then it might just turn into the same sort of thing. It is kind of weird, isn't it, though, having the concept of an Old Firm, but it's weird with it because there's no trepidation going into it. There's no it doesn't
I messaged
actually
you
really.
before the game, just saying kind of how utterly nonplussed I was. Kind of like it's weird because like I'm weird with Old Firm games. I don't build Old Firm games up any more than kind of other games. I think it's one. It's a 3 points the same, but this morning, like, in terms of the actual result, I couldn't have cared less.
That's controversial too.
No, because it's one of these ones where see if Celtic had won anything, had won today. What if they won? Oh, they've beat the team who's streets ahead of them in the league this season and who've come off the back of Europa League, the last 16 game. They are very, very, very comfortable. They're very established. They don't look like they're going to be needing major surgery over the summer. So it would be kind of looked at as they've won the last two Old Firm games this season already. Looking at a potential domestic double. Give us a shit if you had lost that.
I get that to an extent, but I think at the same time though, you want to, when you're on top though, you want to sort of keep forcing that home or whatever.
Oh, of course.
You don't want to give any sort of let up, especially when it's unnecessary as well. And it would be something that it's something that Gerard I think is now sort of starting to talk about. He's been very one game at a time the whole way through, but now he's like, we can use this undefeated season concept as something to motivate us going forward. I think he is someone who, so he's admitted that to the press. I think he'll be really keen to do that, because it's something that will be remembered for a long, long time if it comes through. So I think Celtic would take great satisfaction about, even though it's been a total disaster, even though they don't know what's happening with their manager, with their captain, with anything going forward, they'd still take plenty of satisfaction out of that, and that's something that you don't want to hand over easily. So I think it's I don't think Rangers deserve to win the game, but I think they did enough, certainly to get a point. McGregor was brilliant again, wasn't he? The last time it was maybe a few more like real spectacular ones. At Ibrox, this one was a bit more just like real good, solid save after save on it. Legs, diving stops, really neat handling, just everything.
See the one that trickled through him, and then see when he got that, I just knew it was going to be they weren't losing. Because those are those kind of moments of luck that can either come or go for you. And especially in Old Firm games, if that goes in, you just know it's not going to be your afternoon.
Yeah.
You keep it out, and you're very much got that kind of platform. But one of the big positives as well as McGregor, was just all the fan stuff today. And as much as there was loads of whining about fans being out partying last weekend, and enjoy yourself, guys. Folk with pictures of people all across the country with painted curbs and banners and flags, and then mad Celtic fans clambering up really dodgily built looking step ladders, pulling on dunes has been some of the best. And I think that was one of the biggest things about today, because it's been what, a decade since Rangers went there as champions. I was just wanting to kind of get out our systems and kind of take up that step towards being a wee bit more unbearable, because I don't think we've reached peak yet. Like some of the videos, did you see the coffin guys?
Yeah, there's going to be plenty of creative content, I think, probably over the next few months. I think people will be milking it big time.
And just, was there any other positives just from the game? Just Scott Wright for me was one, his cameo off the bench. And you impressed by Wright, or anything else that kind of caught your eye?
Yeah, I thought he was pretty bright, and a good sign of, it's obviously slightly easier to do it now, but still a good sort of sign of trust that he was given 20 odd minutes at the end. I thought Kent was very bright. I see if that volley had went in, good grief, that was an absolute worldly of a piece of technique, because you can just see that skewing off the outside of his foot and halfway up the stand. But it was an absolutely brilliant effort. That would have been a wonder goal. Yeah, and I just think it's another one where it's another one that adds to the bank of just game after game in terms of Old Firm, where Rangers are building up this thing where they're first of all very difficult to beat, and also just a better team, because I think it's probably the second Old Firm in a row where haven't played anywhere near their best, but they've still managed to get over the line or get a result, not come away with a defeat in this case. And so a positive one. A bit of a lackluster watch, but we'll, I think, take it and move on.
Take it on the chin, yeah. Just like I said, Mr. Mowbray, right? And that'll do for this episode. We'll be back with more videos during the week. We'll be looking ahead to what's coming up after the international break. I'll look back at some of the stuff over the season and loads of other things. So remember to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.